Right now is former White House Council of Economic Advisors Chairman and University of Chicago economist Tomas Philipson. Tomas, great to see you. Thanks very much for being here. You know, it's not just that op-ed in the Journal this morning. There's also an op-ed from Karl Rove, and his title of his piece is "Biden Has No Plan to Fight Inflation." The president had his own op-ed in the Journal out the other day, and it was a lot of talk, but no real plan. So what is the plan to get prices down, in your view?
Yeah, getting the White House to fight inflation at this point is like having an arsonist trying to shut out a fire. So I think the White House announced that it's actually almost trying to increase inflation because he keeps talking about a couple of things. One is making things more affordable for people. And the way he's going to do that is through demand subsidies, you know, whether it's child care, housing, or even student loans. And then, but those subsidies presumably raises prices as opposed to going after expanding supply and also reducing the money supply, which is really the big cost of this. I think also this op-ed today in the Wall Street Journal point out this glaring issue with the Keynesian economic, part of the profession that is sort of called Keynesian economists, which believe that the government can time the business cycle. And this is, you know, Groundhog Day again, where the government can time the business cycle. It's like forecasting a wedding on a sunny day. It's too hard to do. You can't forecast the weather. You can't forecast the economy very well. Even the private sector on the street does a horrible job forecasting the economy, let alone bureaucrats who have less of an incentive to get it right.
What do you think is happening in China right now, Tomas? Shanghai is apparently attempting to return to normal after China lifted the 2-month-long COVID lockdown. This has had reverberations across the world. Do you buy it that Shanghai is slowly but surely opening up, and is that going to impact oil?
Yeah, it's going to impact oil, and it seems like they're opening up. There's a lot of people in China, obviously, when they do anything, so it's going to raise demand. At the same time as Europe is getting very serious on shutting out Russia out of supply, both forces obviously being the two reasons we're now seeing 120 oil roughly. We're almost back to 2008. We're climbing up to 2008, which was the peak in the 140s of oil. But the White House seems to say that that's not energy that's expensive enough. They want to put us in even more expensive energy, which is green energy, which has not been innovated down in costs, and therefore the market has not adopted green energy and won't do it until the innovation brings down the cost.
Yeah, and Rebecca Heinrichs, jump in here, because I know that you feel that it's been the lockdown that has been most impactful, negatively impactful for the U.S. economy.
No, that's right. And so every time you hear President Biden, he's going to do this tour supposedly and try to convince Americans the economy really isn't that bad. But then he's going to point to things that were just out of his control that actually made the economy pinch when it did. He's going to point to COVID. But what he really means is it's lockdowns, especially in the Shanghai situation. It's the lockdown that is crushing the economy. The coronavirus itself is not the one responsible for this. And we know now with all of this science that the lockdowns aren't actually affecting the way we want them to prevent illness. So just remember that when government officials say that, it is the inhumane, frankly, and counterproductive lockdowns that have crushed the economy.
Well, Tomas, that's the issue here. This is about policy. I mean, we're talking about inflation as a result of bad policy. We're talking about an economy that is in the position it is because of bad policy. Do you think the U.S. is headed for a recession right now?
Well, I think the Q1 numbers that came out earlier on the first quarter was a little bit written off because of the trade deficit number dragged it down. But if you think about what the White House is doing, they're stimulating demand, domestic demand quite a bit, and they're attacking a domestic supply. So if you start buying from abroad and have a trade deficit, that's a natural consequence of that kind of policy. So I don't think Q1 was as innocent as people think. And we might even be in a recession, obviously 2 quarters of negative growth. It depends a little bit what's going to happen now. It's going to be a lot of eyes on the employment numbers coming out, the private today and the BLS or government tomorrow. Employment typically lags output reductions, so it's going to be a lot of hype if those numbers do not look good. Currently, economists think it's about a 28% chance. On an average year, it's about 14% chance of a recession. So this is double what the average year has to bring.
And Brian Moynihan recently told us that the consumer is very strong, the CEO of Bank of America. And yesterday, Jamie Dimon from J.P. Morgan said that consumers still have about 6 to 9 months of spending power in the bank. But they are drawing on that. We saw that just this week with the savings rate plummeting. Tomas, thanks very much for your insights on all of that. We'll keep watching it, and we appreciate your time. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Tomas Philipson coming up.